Now I'm leaving. My parents left everything to my younger brother. The apartment, the money, the dacha. And to me nothing. Not a word. Not an explanation. Not a glance. Not a final hug. Not even a sorry it had to be this way. And now I'm leaving. Not because I'm greedy. Not because I'm offended. But because I'm broken. Because inside everything feels empty. How did we get here? How did parental love, once so strong, tender, and aching, turn into something with a bitter taste of injustice? How did the beloved child, for whom you'd give your life, suddenly become superfluous? I stood in the doorway, on the threshold of the home where I grew up, where I took my first steps as a child, where I ran to my parents' bedroom at night after bad dreams, where it smelled of mom's pies and dad's gas heater. And now, I felt like a stranger, like a guest who arrived too late for the Last Supper. My parents left everything to my younger brother, apartment, money, the country house. And to me not a word, not an explanation, not a glance, not even a farewell hug, not a forgive us, it had to be this way. And now I'm leaving, not because I'm greedy, not because I'm offended, but because I'm broken, because inside, everything feels hollow. How did we end up here? How did parental love, so strong, aching, tender, turn into something tainted with injustice? How did the beloved child, for whom you would have given your life, suddenly become unnecessary? I stood in the doorway, on the threshold of the house I grew up in, where I took my first steps, where I would run into my parents' bedroom at night after bad dreams, where it smelled of mom's pies and dad's old gas heater. And now, I felt like a stranger, like a guest who showed up late for the Last Supper. Max, do you even know they left everything to you? My voice cracked. The paper shook in my hands. My fingers turned white from the strain, as if trying to hold on to something that had long since slipped away. The family? A belief in fairness? Simple human warmth? My brother. He just smirked, scratched his neck, and went to take out the trash. As if none of this mattered. As if what had collapsed inside me wasn't a home, or trust, but just garbage. And my parents. They sat on the stairs. Mom lowered her eyes. Dad tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. What could they say? It's the right thing to do. You're strong, you'll cope. He needs it more. Yes, I am strong, but not unfeeling. And so now I leave. Not just the doorstep. I leave the pain, the injustice, the family I thought I knew, because it's not them anymore. I leave without slamming the door, without shouting, just quietly closing behind me what once was my entire world. How did it come to this? Why do we, parents, raise our children, pour our souls into them, and then suddenly find ourselves unwanted? Why in the same family does one child become everything, and the other nothing? Why does the love we tried to divide equally become so distorted? We think we're doing everything right. We give them toys, education, care. But maybe we forget the most important thing? That every child just wants to be loved. Not for their achievements. Not based on how much they need help. Just loved for who they are. Maybe we compare too often. Praise one and forget to praise the other. We expect help from the strong one because you're grown up, you can handle it, and we don't see how tired he gets of always being the support. And then we're surprised. Why did he leave? And when we're left alone, when the house is quiet, when there's no call, no knock at the door, only then do we begin to understand. But by then it's too late. Because hurt is like a crack in glass. You can tape it up, but you'll never get the same clarity again. Parents, please, don't forget that your children aren't only the ones who stay close, but also those who leave in silence. The ones whose hearts tremble from invisible wounds. And if one child is closer, don't push the other farther away. Let there be room for all of them in your home. Let no son ever say, "Now I'm leaving," with that kind of coldness in his heart. Let no daughter feel forgotten. Love them all, equally, fully, the strong and the weak. Because otherwise, one day it will be too late. I walked down the stairs, not looking back, as if each floor I descended was a year I could no longer reclaim. One by one. Kindergarten, school, graduation, the army, first love, first victories and defeats. It all happened here, under this roof. In these walls, where I once laughed until I cried. where I fell asleep pressed against Mom's shoulder, where Dad taught me how to hammer a nail and how to be a man, where I felt like a son, and now I feel like a mistake, an unnecessary attachment to a last name, an inconvenient reminder of the past, as if my entire path was just a draft, and something important and pure began with my younger brother, as if he's the final, perfect version of a son, and I'm just the test run. How many times did I come to them with hope, to talk, to ask for advice, just to sit nearby in silence? And every time, they seemed to be in a hurry, tired. Not for me. You're grown now. Yes, grown. But the soul still remains a child, one that hides under the covers at night, because it's scared, because it's empty, because no one will hold them and say, I'm here, son. I don't envy my brother. Honestly, this isn't about money. Not the apartment. Not the country house. It's about attention. About a look. About how he was always special. His achievements were admired, his weaknesses forgiven. Mine were not. I was always compared to him, even without them realizing it. Look how hard he tries. And me? Didn't I try? I remember being 12 and sick. A fever, over 40. I lay in the room alone. Mom had gone to a club meeting with my brother. Dad was on a business trip. I stared at the ceiling and thought, if I get worse now, no one will find me. I lay there knowing, even in illness, I was on my own. And then I grew up. Learned to be silent. Not to complain. Not to ask. They thought I was strong. But I was just pretending. So I wouldn't worry them. So I wouldn't get in the way. So I might earn a drop of approval. A glance. A hug like in childhood. But with every year it became clearer. I'm just not the one. And now everything has fallen into place. The will. The signatures. Everything transferred to the younger one. As if I were just a phase they passed through. As if I'm not their son, but merely a neighbor they accidentally lived with for a while. They didn't even explain. Didn't even talk to me. Just a fact. And what am I supposed to do with this pain now? Where do I put my hands when they hold nothing but a trembling piece of paper that says, you're not needed? I stepped outside. Closed the door. And maybe they didn't even notice. Maybe things became quieter. Easier. But maybe someday, when I'm no longer here, Mom will open an old drawer, find that drawing I made as a 5-year-old, holding their hands with the words, Mom, Dad, I love you. And maybe then, for the first time in years, she'll cry. Not because one son stayed, but because the other one is gone and can't be brought back. We make mistakes without realizing it. We think we're loving, giving, protecting. And then we look back and see, one child has become a shadow. And a shadow isn't the absence of light. It's just someone who stood in the corner too long. Let there be no shadows in your family. Let every child be equal, not in words, but in actions. Let no heart walk away saying, now I'm leaving. Because leaving with that feeling, it's like dying while still alive. We must learn to love wisely, to see each child, to listen, to embrace, to be there not when it's convenient, but when it hurts the most. Because childhood doesn't repeat. And even grown children still need their parents. A kind word. Recognition. Love. Let your children, whether young or grown, never know what it feels like to stand at the door of their childhood home with trembling hands and feel like a burden. I stepped out into the street, not feeling my legs. The rain was falling, fine, indifferent, as if the world didn't notice that something had collapsed inside me. Cars drove past, someone hurried to the store, someone hugged their child under an umbrella. And I just walked. Without purpose, without a route. I walked because standing still was no longer possible. That evening, I ended up in some cheap hotel. The room was small, smelled of dust and something unfamiliar. But I didn't care. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Inside my chest pulsed a void, dull ringing. In moments like these, you realize pain isn't always a scream. Sometimes it's silence. When you can't cry. When even tears aren't needed anymore. Weeks passed. Maybe months. I found a job in another city. Not in my field, not a dream, just to keep from going crazy. Rented a one-room apartment, ate instant soups, came home at night and sat in the dark. I didn't turn on the TV, it was too loud, and I couldn't stand noise anymore. My phone didn't ring. Not once.